is humbling, and it takes effort to accomplish this stage of life with dignity. We really feel very lucky to have you elders with us. We know elders are always there to guide us, enlighten us, and motivate us. So I would like to thank each and every one of you who has joined us today on this Elder Art and our Elders First Festival. You all are extremely, extremely special to us. So to thank the kindness and support that elders have been showering on us, as you all know, we have been celebrating India's first ever Elder Festival. And for you, today we have planned this very special session of understanding diabetes. So health is a state of complete harmony of the body, mind, and spirit. To ensure good health, eat lightly, breathe deeply, live moderately, cultivate cheerfulness, and maintain an interest in life. Keeping your body healthy is an expression of gratitude to the whole cosmos. It has been said that unhealthy lifestyle can cause diseases like diabetes. However, diabetes can be successfully prevented and managed by a healthy lifestyle. Diabetes is passed that way, over and down, like a knight in chess. So to learn more and understand diabetes, we have with us a very respected guest, Ms. Shilpa Joshi. So Ms. Shilpa Joshi is the head of metabolic nutrition at Fitterfly Health Tech Private Limited. She has been vice president from 2019 to 2021 with the Indian Dietetic Association, Honorable Secretary, All India Association of Advancing Research in Obesity. She was awarded with 3 Award by FOGSI in 2019. She was also a course director, National Diabetes Educators Program from 2010 to 2019, and she has trained more than 3,000 diabetic educators. She has also been presenting at various national and international meetings, including American Diabetes Association, International Diabetes Federation, and International Confederation of Dietitians. She was also a runners-up recipient of Wim Feimer Guggenheim's International Essay Award of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetic Foundation on Malnutrition. So a very warm welcome to you, Ms. Shilpa, and really happy to have you on our Elder Art program. And of course, as we all know, it is a very, very important topic for our elders as such, because many of us do suffer from diabetes, and to help handle it, any tips are definitely most welcome. Any knowledge that we get, any more information. So no matter how much we know, of course, with a specialized person who specializes in this specifically, that information is definitely going to be very, very welcome. So over to you, Shilpa ji, and welcome once again.
Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So thank you so much, Ritu, for this warm words of introduction, and namaste to all elders seeking your blessings on this day. And I'm going to be speaking on something which is very close to everybody's heart, that is nutrition. Most of the time when we think of food, we think it from a point of pure joy and enjoyment. Koi ghar pe aaya, you make something nice or things like that. But let us look at today food in a different light. Let us look at food in form of therapy. And I'm not only going to be dwelling on diabetes. Yes, I am going to be talking about diabetes, but I'm going to be talking about various problems that our elderly individuals have, like dentation, chewing is a problem, sometimes swallowing is a problem, cardiovascular disease is a problem, blood pressure is a problem, so on and so forth. So I'm trying to dwell a little bit on everything. Pardon me. So let's begin with what is older adults, because scientific presentations are never made without defining what you're going to be talking about. So older adult is generally defined as someone who is older than 65 years of age. But those who are older than 65 years of age are sometimes categorized as young old. So from 65 to 74, old from 75 to 84, and oldest old 85 and above. And this is actually given, this is a clinical definition which is given and accepted by all scientific bodies. Now, what are the health issues in older adult? So older adults are also called as geriatric. A geriatric person is characterized by a high degree of frailty and multiple active disease, which become very common in the age group of 80 and above. So what do you mean by frailty? Frailty means loss of muscle mass. You become very frail. You are very prone to falls and injuries. So sarcopenia means loss of muscle mass, which is actually very, very common in as you start aging, and it begins very early. It becomes a little more early in women as soon as they start menopausing, which can be at the age of 40, 45. This sarcopenia starts and then it sort of goes on. This is due to decline in physical activity. That is because most of the time it is very socially acceptable in our country for elderlies not to be physically fit, functionality and performance. So any kind of physical performance declines in people who are old, and that is because of loss of muscle mass. There is some amount of disability and dependence because of that. So I'll give you a simple example. If you want to climb up a stool and pick up something from attic, and if you're an older adult, especially in a country like India, where there's so much of help available, we will typically call for help or call for somebody younger so we depend on them. So that's a problem. And sometimes disability, we see this in women very often, but not so uncommon in men also, where they start complaining by the time they reach 60 that my knee hurts whenever I climb stairs. Ye dukta hai, wo dukta hai. This is, partial disability. Frailty is associated with increased risk of adverse health outcomes. So frailty is not something which is good, and that is why exercising in older adults is very important. Sarcopenia, that is loss of muscle mass, also impairs metabolic issues like diabetes, blood pressure, heart disease, and so on and so forth. So when we talk about diabetes, the basic reason for diabetes is muscle mass is less, fat mass is more. Though you may not look fat, all the muscle, the weight that you have is either fat or bone, and there is no muscle. Now, the surprising part is India has very high amount of frailty. About 50% of older adults in India are frail. A study reported that adults in India are much more frail and much less muscle mass as compared to those in United States. In an Indian study, it may be due to age, ethnicity, and dietary habit. Physical inactivity, which is so very common in older adults in India. So you rarely see older people jogging in India, which is very common in the Western world. So physical inactivity results in loss of muscle mass due to imbalance between synthesis and degradation of muscle protein. Okay, and grip strength, how well you can hold somebody else or a thing, which is called as grip strength, is actually an indicator of frailty. Okay. So now what are the nutritional intake among frail older adults? Intake of most of the nutrients in frail adults is low. All 14 micronutrients are deficient in 25% of older adults. So we find that older adults rarely take multivitamin supplement because they all already have so many drugs. So they are taking something for diabetes, they're taking something for blood pressure, they're taking something for something for the other thing. So when they start taking so many drugs, what happens is they stop taking vitamins and minerals. Okay, so that's a big problem. Lower nutrient intake is highly associated with frailty. Lower intake of protein. This is one nutrient which I'm going to speak about extensively, but remember, protein is not eaten by Indians, and intake of vitamin D, E, C, folate have been shown to be low with increasing frailty. So consumption of fruit and vegetable is observed to be low in frail adults. So in India, which is so-called a vegetarian country, even non-vegetarians are vegetarians on most of the days, correct, for religious reason or for other reason, but they do not consume vegetables and they do not consume fruits. So it has been demonstrated that 3 portions of fruit and 2 portions of vegetable per day was related to lowering of frailty, and I'm going to tell you what is portion. Okay. A relationship was observed in present study where low intake of antioxidants like vitamin A, C, zinc, selenium were all associated with frailty. Now, what is the aim of good diet? Now I come to actual diet. So the aim of good diet is adequate amount of energy. Both under and overeating should be avoided as we get older. Overeating is also malnutrition. Undereating is also malnutrition. So try not to overeat, try not to undereat. Protein should be part of every meal. No meal is complete without protein. So I'll just give you some examples while we speak. So typically in breakfast, what do Indians eat? Forget older adults. What do typically Indians eat? In West, they will eat poha, upma, sabudana, khichdi, thepla, or bread butter or bread anda. In North, they will eat paratha or bread butter, bread anda. In East, they will eat bread, and in South, they will eat idli dosa. All of that is carbohydrate. There is no protein there. Unless you eat anda or you try to eat pulse based. So instead of dosa, if you're eating a mung chilla or a besan puda or pesarattu or a adai, in South or in North, paneer ka roti, or in East, maybe a egg, only then your meal has a protein. Micronutrients, adequate intake of fruit and vegetable is very important. Beside micronutrient, they are great source of fiber. And fluid intake is very, very important unless it is restricted. So we find that in older adults, lot of adults have restricted fluid intake because they have congestive cardiac failure or they have renal disease. So in such individuals, if they are told to only drink liter, liter and a half, it's a different story. But others need to drink it well. And remember, hydration means drinking water and not Coke and Pepsi and thumbs up, etc. Even sharbat. So what are the issues in achieving adequate nutrition? First and foremost, in older adults, the problem is dentures. Sometimes they are ill-fitting, and sometimes older adults go through prolonged dental treatment. So they are not able to eat. Even if they are hungry, they are just not able to eat. Then there is loss of taste. Loss of taste acuity, and hence older adults require more salt and more sugar in their food to taste good. And these are the people who have hypertension or who have diabetes, so they cannot eat it. Some have difficulty in swallowing, especially with dry food. Sukha sabzi, they cannot get it. Okay. Then they have a lot of digestive issues like acidity, indigestion, gas, and constipation is very, very, very common among older adults. Likes and dislikes. And what I have seen is that dislike is toward protein-rich food like dal, pulses, egg, and non-veg food. And of course, they have a lot of metabolic issue, whether it is diabetes, cardiovascular disease, renal, and all of these lead to limiting food choices. Now I'm coming to the diet itself. So first nutrient I'm going to discuss is carbohydrate. They are energy giving food and they are composed of sugar. They are common staples eaten regularly, which account to up to 80% of diet in developing countries. They are quickly absorbed by the body. So what are the sources? Cereals, that is wheat, rice, millets, sorghum, maize, so on and so forth. Root crops like potatoes, cassava, sweet potatoes, carrots, and starchy fruits like bananas. All of these are source of carbohydrate. Proteins, what are these are bodybuilding foods. They form main structural component of our body and helps and maintains tissue and muscle mass. And today, COVID times, they actually give us immunity. So what are the sources? Beans, nuts, so on and so forth. Or animal is meat, fish, poultry, dairy, etc. Then energy giving foods, that is fats, that is lipids, that is oils. Energy giving foods, they are not produced by the body and they are absorbed more slowly than carbohydrate. They account for small part in developing countries. They are butter, ghee, lard, margarine, oils, various kinds and various types. And then there are water soluble vitamins and there are fat soluble vitamins. Fat soluble vitamins are vitamin A, D, E, K. Remember, most of you and even most of not elderly, but even middle-aged people like myself are advised to take vitamin D very regularly to maintain good bone health. And water-soluble vitamins in today's COVID era, vitamin C has gotten a lot of importance, which is a water, soluble vitamin, and the sources are fruits, vegetables, and animal food. And then there are minerals, which are also very important. One of the most common minerals that you must all be aware of is iron. Iron deficiency anemia is something at least women in this group are aware. In their younger days, they were very, very clear about taking iron, because during childbirth and other processes, iron becomes very, very important. The nutrient or the mineral which has got really popular during COVID time is zinc. Everybody is taking zinc tablets because it helps in immunity. And I'm going to discuss all these in detail. Okay. Now, these are carbohydrate consuming nations in the world, and look at India. It is a consuming highest amount of carbohydrate, 70 to 75%. And what has happened in India? When Indians eat carbohydrate, our sugars rises more than other European people. So say European people were given 2 biscuits to eat and Indians were given 2 biscuits to eat. This is actually glucose beverage, means they dissolved glucose in water and they gave them to eat. You find that Indians' sugar increased more as compared to Europeans, and therefore we are more carbohydrate sensitive or insulin resistant, as it is called in scientific language. But despite of knowing this, what do Indians eat? Look at the amount of rice and look at the amount of dal. Okay, so still we eat carbohydrate and spoil our health. That is the problem. All our food options are carbohydrates, whether it's upma, it's khichdi, it's dalia, it's dahi bhat, it's idli, it's dosa, it's puri sabzi, roti sabzi, everything is a carb. This is a scientific study which I was a co-author in, and I just thought I should show you. All across India, we found that people eat a lot of carbohydrate, between 65 to 70% all through the country. Initially, people thought that only South Indians eat a lot of carbs because they eat idli, dosa, and rice. But that's not true. Central Indians eat the most carbohydrate. Okay. Okay. So these are different kinds of fiber components which help you in maintaining weight. And in that, there are various components. I'm not going to be alluding to it. Now I'm going to make it very practical for you. See, what happens is when you eat only chawal, ya chawal mein ghee dal ke, ya pulao, ya तड़का दिए हुए चावल, ऐसा कुछ खाया, तो then it is a very high carb meal and it's not permitted in diabetes. But moment you take half rice and add half a dal, or maybe rajma, or maybe chole, or maybe dahi ki kadi, ya chicken curry, ya dal, sambar, sprouts, usal, any of that, you will find that this becomes a good way to manage blood sugar. If you're going to just eat a fruit, your blood sugar is going to go high. But in the fruit, if you add a good handful of nuts, remember the blood sugar by eating fruit will not go as high. Then the next thing that all of you are very curious about, which oil to buy. Okay, so what is a healthy oil? So there are two aspects in choosing oils, quantity and quality. So quality mein oil should be low in saturated fat, high in unsaturated fat. What does that mean? When an oil is high in saturated fat, it it becomes solid when India becomes cold. So in India, winters are typically, I mean, all over India. Okay, I'm not just talking about North. Typically, minimum temperatures are around 15, 16 degrees Celsius. If a oil starts becoming thick in that temperature, then it's a bad quality fat. Which oils become thick in that temperature? Coconut oil. So you'll find that even in Mumbai in winters, maybe December and Jan, if you're trying to oil your hair with coconut oil, you have to first put it in a warm water, liquefy it, and then use it. That means it's a saturated fat. Same is true with ghee. थोड़ा सा सर्दी हो जाता है, थोड़ा सा winter हो जाता है, you will find that ghee becomes solid at room temperature, and these are kind of fats which are implicated in heart disease. So more the saturated fat, more is the insulin resistance, means diabetes, less is insulin sensitivity, higher triglycerides, higher bad cholesterol, that is LDL cholesterol. Trans fats are fats which are industrially made, like dalda. High amount of insulin resistance, decreased insulin sensitivity, and high amount of triglycerides and very low HDL. HDL is good cholesterol. And then there are different kinds of unsaturated fat, and these are what we want you to consume because they drop triglycerides, they drop LDL cholesterol, and they are neutral to HDL cholesterol, that is good cholesterol. Okay, so we want you to consume fats which are monounsaturated fat in nature, which are present in sarson ka tel, that is mustard oil, in north and east. In south and west, you can have peanut oil, you can have rice bran oil, and you can have sesame oil, til ka tel. Okay, so these are, so what are the non-glycemic components of the oil? So there are a lot of things which are present in oil beyond fat, and these are all antioxidants which are there, which are types of vitamin E. And that is why we always advise you never to buy refined oil, always buy double filtered oil. Double filtered oil is good for you for tadka. If you decide to deep fry, ideally you should not deep fry. But if you decide to deep fry, only for deep frying, buy refined oil. Okay. Otherwise, just use filtered oil. That's really, really good for you. So these are good quality fats to consume. Okay. These are different kinds of ghee. And I put this slide because I know even my mother used to love ghee. So these are different kinds of ghee available in the market. And typically what is said is कि हम लोग घर पे घी बनाते हैं तो हमारा घी बहुत अच्छा होता है. Remember, these are also homemade desi ghee. And remember, the nutrient composition is not really different from the ghee of RA, Gokul, Nakoda, Gits, Nova, Dynamics, etc., etc. Very little change in the nutrient composition. So it doesn't matter where ghee is coming from. All ghee is saturated fat, which are all these, and they are really not good for you. These are good fats to eat. So different kinds of seeds. These are flax seeds. These are chia seeds. These are sesame seeds. So on and so forth. These are methi seeds. All of these are good fats, whether it's coming from moongfali, it's coming from moongfali is groundnut, or it's coming from almonds or walnuts or so on and so forth. These are good fats to be consumed. And there is a lot of data now to show that actually eating nuts every day, especially walnuts and almonds, actually reduces the chance of getting diabetes. And if you have diabetes and heart disease, remember, if you eat nuts every day, the rate of increment of blood sugar and cholesterol drops. But of course, when you start eating nuts, you have to drop fat from your diet. So you can't do like eating a vada and samosa and also eating nuts. That doesn't work. So if you start eating nuts, you have to stop eating other fried items, but that will do you a lot of good, especially to your cholesterol. And it has something called as arginine. All the nuts have arginine, and arginine gets converted to nitric oxide in our body, and that actually opens out your arteries. And that's very, very important to maintain good health. Now, what is a good micronutrient supplementation? Remember, friends, it is only vegetables. So instead of eating B complex tablets, try to include a lot of vegetables in your market. Do you eat greens and green leafy vegetables? If I ask this question to my patients, they all say, we eat palak and we eat methi. Remember, that's not enough. Go to the market and look at the amount of green leafy vegetables. Buy different ones on different days and make it for yourself. I know you will have a lot of young people living with you, especially if you have grandchildren who are teenagers, they are not going to eat all this. But if you keep making this and keep eating this in front of them, remember, they will inculcate very good habits. At least they will have some role models who eat good quality food. I'm sure all of you have heard this saying, an apple a day keeps doctor away. And what about other fruits? They are as important, remember. And more local you eat, better it is. So try to eat bear, try to eat amla, guava, jamun, different kinds of berries. They're really rich source of vitamin C. In COVID times, we are taking vitamin C tablets. Rather than that, depend on these fruits. And these are very important, healthy swaps. I'm sure all of you get hungry in the evening, and probably you have teenage grandchildren or young people around you who tend to snack on this. Please remove all this from your life. You can instead ask for a hot snack, which is like poha, upma. This is a thali pit. This is a traditional Maharashtrian snack. But of course, you can do any regional snack that is available, which is low in fat. Rather than drinking all these drinks, look at chas, which is buttermilk, or look at soy milk, or look at a low calorie protein shake as a good option to drink. Never drink aerated drinks, never drink juices which are available, and definitely not the frappuccinos because they are very, very high in calories. So these are good quality. So look at, this is typically how Indian diet looks like. There's sabzi, salad, etc. But there is a roti and there is a rice. If you have diabetes, you definitely don't want to eat like this. You eat a lot of salad, so this plate becomes a big, this chota katori becomes a big plate, sabzi and dahi, and there is good quality protein, and just one intake of cereal, either roti or rice, never both. So this is jawari ka roti, this is gehu ka roti, but only little bit. Most of your plate should be full of salad, vegetables, dal, and dahi, and that is how you will maintain your health well. Eat your rainbow. This is something which we tell everybody. So look at the colors. There is reds of beet, a bright red. There is orange of carrot. There is white of cucumber. There is a green leafy. There is a regular vegetable. There is some drumstick here. So remember, more colors you eat, really nice it is for you. So try not to eat all this street food. I know a lot of times you tend to make street food at home, but remember it's very high in calorie, very low in protein. It's extremely unhealthy. Rather than that, rather than that, and even these, look at these naans and kulchas, or even carbohydrate rich appams, we really think that these are good foods, but they are not, especially if you have diabetes and heart disease, or rice dosa, or idli, so on and so forth. So try to consume, instead, look at these protein rich things. If you're a non-vegetarian, maybe egg burji. You can have dry roasted makhana, or you can have a sprout chaat, cook the sprouts, add pyaj tomato to it, add whatever spices you like, and you can have, these are good snacks to have. This is muthia, which is made up of besan. These are dry roasted chana. This is made besan ya moong dal ka chila. These are really great foods to have in case of elderly. Actually, these are great foods to have for anybody, but especially for elderly. Even if you decide to have a paratha, instead of paratha, have a missi roti, which has a lot of besan in it. Yeah, if you can't handle besan, have moong dal in it. You can have moong dal ka dosa, or you can have an egg appam instead of just having a appam by itself. Now, this is something that I put up because I see a lot of elderly eating mithai in name of prasad. They say it's offering to God and we can't say no. So they will have mitha. This is modak. This is actually made in my own house. So instead of eating these modaks, why don't you offer fruits to the God? So that is what you will get. And that's really healthy for everybody. So you can give it to your grandchildren. You can eat it yourself. Now, these are foods these are recommendations given by National Institute of Nutrition in India, which is situated in Hyderabad. So these are sources of proteins which are very important to remember. So if it's pulses and legumes, remember Bengal gram is chana dal, black gram is urad dal, green gram is moong dal, lentil is masoor dal, and red gram is arhar ki dal ya tuar dal. Then there are nuts and oil seeds, fish, meat, and poultry. These are very important sources of protein. Then there is iron. Iron is very important. A lot of time women think that once they stop menstruating, iron is not as important as it was when they were younger and they were menstruating. It's not so. You have good iron stores, you have good immunity. So remember, iron is very important in the food. And if you're taking iron-rich foods in form of vegetarian diet, be very sure to squeeze lime on it, because iron gets absorbed only in presence of vitamin C. If you're eating it from non-vegetarian sources, you don't have to worry, because all non-vegetarian iron gets absorbed directly. So this is the richest source of iron in Indian food, that is garden cress seed, which is called as halim in Hindi, and in Marathi it is called aliv. I do not know in other languages what it is called. So this something you can incorporate in forms of, you can soak it overnight and then boil it with milk, and you can have it like a decoction. This is really great. Then all your green leafy vegetables are a great source. Then these are dates, which are great source. And of course, then there is chana and other things, which are also great source. So iron is very important. And the richest source of iron is amaranth and not spinach. Amaranth is lal mat. I do not know what it is called in other language, but I can show you. I put a picture of amaranth in my slides. Just one second. This is amaranth. Okay. This is a very, very rich source of iron in our diet and not spinach. Spinach is not as, then cabbage, coriander leaves, drumsticks, and nolkol. These are good vegetables. Then in other vegetables, capsicum and green chilies and so on. Now, zinc I kept here purposefully because zinc has gained a lot of importance in COVID time. So what are rich sources of zinc? 6.1 Bengal gram whole. Sabut chana, what you make your chole, but the other kind, chole is Kabuli chana, the brown one or the green one. That's a very rich source. And these are all rich sources of zinc. So watermelon seeds, pumpkin seeds, gingerly seeds. Gingerly means sesame, means til. Then groundnuts, cashew nuts, rajma. All of these are very, very rich sources. Bengal gram, black gram, udid dal, cowpea is lobia or chauli. All of these are great sources of zinc. And of course, non-veg, all food gives you a lot of zinc. So how do you improve zinc content of your diet? Peanuts can be served in any form. Okay. So you can, put peanuts, give peanuts as snack, or Maharashtrians and Gujaratis put a lot of peanuts in their cooking, or you can make a chutney out of peanuts, so on and so forth. Or you can make chikki and laddu also, but if you have diabetes, you can't eat them. You can have watermelon and pumpkin seeds on your salad or in your sabzi or in your dal. And of course, if you're a non-vegetarian, you can enjoy all kinds of non-vegetarian food. Remember, overcooking actually makes you lose a lot of minerals in food. So remember, open cooking. Dhakkan dale bina, when you cook, the loss is highest. Okay, so to prevent cooking losses, eat boiled food with the soup. Means when you're cooking something, the water comes out of the vegetable. So if you're cooking, say, a pumpkin, when you put a tadka and you put the pumpkin inside, there is water which oozes out from pumpkin. Lot of times people dry that water. Pani sukha dete hain. If you do that, you have lost all the minerals. So keep the water intact, not the gravy. I'm talking about the water, and try to have it like a soup. Addition of small amount of salt also prevents it. Avoid too much boiling. This is a problem in India. We heat, cook, and overcook. That's really not good. And a cooking method that causes less mineral loss is stewing, frying, or parching. Parching is drying. Stewing is cooking in water. Frying, of course, should not be encouraged because it leads to heart disease. But stewing, that is tadka lagao, put water and let it boil in it. And that's a good method of cooking. Now I represent a company called as Fitterfly, and Fitterfly has a lot of program where there is wellness which is involved. So of course, I know these programs are not useful for you where there is pregnancy, child health, and so on and so forth. But DiabeFly, which is a dedicated diabetes program. See, what happens a lot of times is whenever you are dealing with problems like diabetes, lot of times you need handholding. You need people to tell you what to do, what to eat. You really appreciate when people inquire about you and they help you to tackle your blood sugar as an issue. So this is a personalized wellness program covering nutrition. So small nuances of your diet, which is causing your blood sugar to go high. Sleep. Sleep is very important, and in elderly, it becomes even more important. We find most of elderlies cannot sleep well. Stress and exercise. I've spoken so much about exercise, about loss of muscle mass. So here we have a dedicated physiotherapist who will not only take care of your aches and pains, but she will also give you exercise which is suitable for you, which will strengthen your body. And it is based on nudge theory. We'll nudge you so that you can give us information and we can help you plan your life better for 3 months. So this DiabeFly is a program that I was going to talk to you about. It's a 3-month program to prevent, manage, or reverse diabetes. So this program is something that I wanted to speak to you. Okay, where can the program help? So it can help in pre-diabetes, that is when diabetes is not fully set. It's still um, it's on the brink. Okay, early diabetes. First line of therapy for newly diagnosed diabetes. Diabetes on OHAs. OHAs, oral hypoglycemic agent, means dawai what you have for diabetes. Even we try to help people who are with diabetes and on insulin. We will program your lifestyle such that you will get adequate control, you will get the right control, and that will also help you to reduce the amount of medications. I'm not saying that all medicines will disappear magically, no, but at least the doses will come down. And of course, we also help people in pregnancy related diabetes. So we help people in all phases of diabetes. We help them to prevent diabetes. We help people in early diabetes to reverse diabetes, and other diabetics who have long-standing diabetes, we help them to modify their treatment or improvise or minimize the amount of drugs that they have. And in case of insulin, we help you to manage it with insulin, decrease the chances of hypoglycemia, so on and so forth. Hypoglycemia is low blood sugar. Okay, so 90% of our patients, okay, these are outcomes of our program. 90% of our patients experience better glycemic control. What do you mean by glycemic control? Means better sugar control. Glycemia means sugar. 1% reduction in HbA1c. HbA1c is a report you must be getting done every 3 months if you have diabetes. HbA1c is an average blood glucose of 3 months. Okay, so whatever musty you do in 3 months, it gets caught in HbA1c. And we have seen that when people are on our program, there is a 1% drop in HbA1c, which is a huge drop. Then 30% of people stopped or reduced their medications, and 60% of people lost their weight and corrected their BMI. BMI is body mass index. That is, it's a number where you get weight upon height square. Weight in kilograms upon height in meter square is the formula used for that. And all these program data is being presented at various scientific forums, that is Chelaram Diabetes Institute, Embrace, that is endocrinology meetings. Endocrinology is a science of hormones. American Association of Clinical Endocrinologists, their meeting, and they've also been presented in TEDx. So just let me take you how do we go through. So once you enroll in DiabeFly, we make you take your SMBG readings, that is your blood sugar reading. You don't have to go to lab, you can just get it done at home. Once we have 7-day readings with us, then 8th day, we give you a personalized diet. It's like tailor-made clothes. Your tailor-made clothes will fit only you. Similarly, your personalized diet is only meant for you and nobody else. In that diet, we take care of your likes, dislikes, your cooking methods. Who are you? Are you a Maharashtrian, Gujarati, Punjabi, Tamil? All diets will be catered to all these small little nuances. And who cooks at your home, whether it's the maid or the lady of the house? When do they cook? Do they cook for the whole day in the morning, or they cook in the morning and in the evening? So on and so forth. So all of that will be considered. Even your exercise will be tailor-made for you. Nobody else will get the same exercise protocol as you. And then we keep on monitoring you till day 90 to get your HbA1c down. So what do we do in this? We call you, yeah, we help you, we guide you, we personalize your diet, we personalize your exercise, and we also personalize your emotional issues. Suppose there's a sleeping difficulty, the psychologist in our team will also help you with techniques which will help you to sleep better. If you're dealing with an emotional issue, she will help you to deal better, because remember, all the real diet comes from the strength of your mind. If you're strong, then you can follow the diet. And that strength comes from talking to people who understand your problems. So with this, I end my presentation. I love this saying by Mahatma Gandhi, that search for truth is endless. And truth is that you need to eat well, you need to eat healthy to maintain your blood glucose. Thank you so much for a patient hearing, and I'll be really happy to answer any questions if you have.
So requesting all the attendees, in case they have any questions, they can basically type in the questions if they want. So Shilpa ma'am, there's one question which says like, I want to join your course, kindly advise to join.
So if you can write an email to us, Mr. Sood, can you help them to redirect them towards us?
Shilpa ma'am, you can type in it here, like over your chat itself, you can just type it over there.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, there is a question which is asked, is jaggery or good better than sugar? Should I answer it or should I type it?
No, you can answer it. You can just type it in the
So
email.
sugar and jaggery is the same as far as diabetes is concerned. It is not at all different. So whether you eat sugar or you eat jaggery, your blood sugar will increase the same way. So try not to eat it. This is my email ID. I am sending it to you. Okay. I have sent it to the in the chat box. Please approach me on that email ID and I can help you with enrolling in that program.
Ms. Rashmi, there are more questions in the chat itself, like which says like good reading fasting PPHPA1C for 66-year female.
I don't understand the question. What are you saying?
What is the best reading for a fasting for a HbA1c who is a
See, madam, readings are common. Readings are not age dependent. So your HbA1c should be below 5.6, should be around 5.6. It doesn't change that because I am older, I can have a little higher HbA1c.
Any more questions, anyone?
Okay, is cashew nut okay for diabetes? Yes, it is okay. Don't overdo. You can eat about 3 to 4 cashew nuts every day and they are fine. Honey, is it okay, Rita, if I just take questions on my own?
Yes.
Oh, please do.
Okay. How about
You will
honey?
have them all on the chat.
How about honey? So honey is also good. Honey is not good for diabetes. So if you're thinking that I'll not add sugar or jaggery and I'll add honey to my tea, yeah, to my nimbu pani, remember postprandial sugar or sugar after drinking that beverage will be very high. Can we use stevia? Yes, you can use stevia. You can use all different kinds of sweeteners. All are approved by the FDA. Honey for diabetes is not good. Somebody has asked for email and I have typed it. I'm retyping it and I am sending it to all panelists. Yeah, please try to, for any queries, you can approach this. Yeah, these are the only things that have been asked. Yeah.
One question is there which asks again about kindly explain the oils again.
So, see, there are two things in oil. One is quality, other is quantity. Quantity is undisputable. So, chahe utna tel nahi kha sakte. 4 teaspoons per person per day. That is 20 grams per person per day. And when I say spoon, I mean teaspoon. I don't mean karchi, which is big. I mean chai wala chammach, chota. So 4 spoons per person per day. That means if you are a family of 4, 16 spoons per day. That is quantity. Quality, try to eat oils which do not freeze at room temperature when India gets cold. So try not to eat ghee, try not to eat coconut oil, palm oil, all of these. So what oils will you eat? Groundnut oil, rice bran oil, and sarso ka tel, that is mustard oil. These are, and sesame oil. These are good oils to eat.
Shilpa ma'am, the next question talks about, please tell us something about peripheral, wait, I just missed it, peripheral neuropathy in diabetes.
So what happens is, it's a very nice question, Miss. It's Ujjal Dasgupta, right? Yeah, it's a very nice question. What is peripheral neuropathy? So what happens when you get diabetes and the blood sugars are continuously high? These blood sugars start impacting different parts of your body. So just to give you a very simple example is, if you have a sugar syrup, say you bought a packet of gulab jam, and then you opened it accidentally and the whole sugar syrup spilled. What happens to your floor? It becomes greasy, right? So you take a knife, and once it becomes solidified, you have to really clean it, and then you have to clean it with sabun ka pani, and then you have to clean it with regular water. Actually, imagine that sugar syrup is spilling in your blood because your blood sugars are high. What happens? It goes and sticks to the nerve endings. And when it goes and sticks to the nerve ending, neuropathy is to do with nerves. Pathy is the problem. Neuro is the neurons or nerves. So when sugar starts affecting the nerves in the periphery, periphery is hands and legs. That is called as diabetic peripheral neuropathy. In neuropathy, you have something called as gloves and stocking syndrome. Means wherever your tips of your hands and your legs, they start losing sensation, they start burning. So if you can manage your sugars very well and keep your blood glucose under tight control, remember, peripheral neuropathy will be delayed and will not occur.
So there are many questions popping up. So the next question is by Dr. Manju Arya, who asked, my HbA1c is 8.6. What is the prognosis? My age is 71 years.
Ma'am, it is like I said, HbA1c is not age dependent. HbA1c of 8.6 at 20 and at 71 is the same. HbA1c is HbA1c. So all you have to do is follow a good diet, take your medicines regularly, go for walks, and get your HbA1c down. Just get it very gradually. It is not good to have high HbA1c. That shows that your blood glucose control is not good. So eventually start getting it down. There is nothing to worry about, but there is something to be concerned. Means you take care of yourself. This is just proving that you are not looking after yourself well.
So the next question is by KP Mandalwar sir, who asked, I'm 84 plus, BMI is 25, glucose 8 is glucose, 108 is HbA1c.
HbA1c is 5.8, glucose is 108.
Sorry, glucose is 108, and it has increased within 6 months. No BP control diet, exercise about 2 hours. I want to ask why it has increased and how to reduce.
So I don't know why it has increased. Probably you have not taken care of your diet. You may be eating too many carbs. Now I've showed you what are carbs and how will you include protein in your diet. So try to increase protein intake, reduce carbohydrate, reduce your roti, rice, whatever you are trying to eat more, and don't take stress. Stress also increases blood sugar. And also I would suggest take help to reduce, because your HbA1c is mildly elevated. It's really very mild. 5.6 is normal, you're 5.8. So it's completely reversible, and you can reverse it. You can join our program. If you don't want to join our program, you can take care of your eating, start including protein in every meal, start including nuts and oilseeds in your diet, and you will be fine.
Thank you so much. The next question is by SC Puri sir, who asks, in my case, fasting is at 160, whereas PP is 120.
Normal, 120 is normal BP.
So he's asking basically why fasting blood sugar level is more than range as laid down.
It is more because at night when you sleep, your liver is throwing out glucose without control. For that, you will have to follow a very healthy lifestyle. Try to eat a dinner with minimum amount of carbs. Try to walk in the night before dinner, and in the morning also do a morning walk.
Okay. I think my elders are finding it really useful. So the next follow-up question that Ujjal Dasgupta sir asked about was peripheral neuropathy. On that question, he has followed up another question which asked about, how best can you reduce it?
So you can't reduce. Once it has happened, you can't do anything. But you can prevent from it happening more. So you can help decrease worsening it, but you can't do anything. Once sugar gets stuck to the nerves, you can't do anything about it.
Okay, so the next question is, okay, can we ask from Swarna Auntie, who asked, can we take canola oil, which my dog has, doctor?
Yes, you can. Canola oil is oil, mustard oil without smell and taste. You can.
And she's also asking if she can take mango. Mango happens to be one of the favorites of
I know.
everyone.
But
Yeah.
if you have diabetes, ma'am, don't take it. If you don't have diabetes, please go ahead and take it. If you have diabetes, I'm not saying never eat it. I'm just saying eat a mango, do your postprandial sugar. If it is in control, you can eat it. If it goes high, then stop it or reduce the quantity.
That's great. Then Ranjana Auntie is asking for your mobile number. You can
Give her my email ID and she can converse with me.
Okay, Ranjana Auntie, basically you can write an email to her on her email ID, and I think post that your team shall take that up. Right. Okay. The next question is from Satya Goel. He asked, can we take raisins in diabetes?
Raisins increases blood sugar, sir. So even if you want to take it, take a few. Don't eat bharke. If you want to take 4 or 5 raisins, it's okay, but not more than that.
Okay, the next question is by Kiran Keswani ma'am, who asked, I'm suffering from last 30 years and on insulin. Last time 2 months back, my sugar level was 7.2, but I sometimes feel low on sugar. On that time, can I use glucose
You have
tablets?
to use only glucose tablets when you feel low. But ma'am, low is a low only when you measure and prove it is a low. So if you do your blood sugar and it is below 70, then you are low. If it is not below 70, then you are not low. Then you can just eat a little bit like maybe a fruit or something and you will feel better. But if you are below 70, you have to take glucose tablets.
So next question is by Bikram sir, which is again a repetition. Should mango be taken by diabetics? It was as answered by you. It can be taken, but in minimum amount. The next question is by Ranjana Auntie. She asks, kindly let me know since morning I had sweating and diabetic him, and diabetic was 57, and after taking breakfast it was 250. Kindly give your suggestion.
So ma'am, these are very specific questions, but I'll give you a generic answer. This may not, you will have to actually personally talk to me because there are a lot of things. So remember when your diabetes was 57, you were actually going through a thing called as hypoglycemia, that is low blood sugar. So first of all, why did that low blood sugar happen? Did you not eat at dinner well? Did you take too much insulin at night? Was your low sugar even in night? I do not know anything. So we'll have to figure that out. Second thing is you overate your breakfast because your sugars were low. So when your sugars are low, the feeling of hunger is a lot. You tend to feel very, very hungry. So when that happens, remember you overeat and your blood sugar has shot up. So remember, first is you have to find the reason why sugar went to 57. And then we will find out how to prevent it from 57 to 250.
Okay, so there's one question in Q&A section where someone has asked, do you recommend dalda?
No, never even touch dalda. It is the easiest way of getting heart disease.
That's great, because when we were really small and everyone used to talk about dalda a lot. So yeah,
that's the easiest way to get heart attack is by eating dalda. इसीलिए बाहर की मिठाई मत खाओ, वो उसी में बनती है.
Wait, Shilpa, Dr. Shilpa, I can see Shilpa.joshi @fitterfly. Should I just write that everywhere so that they can contact?
Shilpa.joshi @fitterfly.in.
Yeah, perfect. I'm just doing it so that
I've written it. I think I've written it.
Yeah, I'm just repeating it because there have been a lot of chats. Maybe some people might have missed it. So we can take last 2-3 questions if someone have. They can just type in.
But I am very grateful, everybody, that you are asking questions. That means you did hear my talk.
It was really interesting, Okay, we'll just give a minute, and in case any question pops up, we can take it. Otherwise, yeah. So, Shilpa ma'am, there's one last question which says, if the sugar reading for a diabetic patient is lower than normal range, then should they take insulin?
Sorry, I didn't understand. If blood sugar is low,
for a diabetic,
should you take insulin?
No, the question reads as, if the sugar reading for a diabetic patient is lower than the normal range, then should they take insulin?
Why will they take insulin? If the sugar is low, then you should not take insulin. First, you should eat.
So I think there was one last question which I saw here, which said, no, I think,
It was H1BC.
bilkul, H1BC 6.2, should I be alert? Mr. Subhash Bansal is asking.
You should not be alert and scared, but you should be alert and watchful. I mean, you should take care that it doesn't go higher. You should try to reduce it, but you don't have to be scared. There is nothing wrong. It's just mild increase in blood glucose. Take care of it. Your sugars will come down.
Right. Thank you so much, Shilpa ji, for such an enlightening session. And I think the kind of tips that you have given to everyone, very simplistic yet very easy to follow. And all the questions that you took on, because kahin na kuch doubts hamesha hi hote hain, and everybody wants to be in good health. So thank you so much for clarifying all that and giving us so much of time. On behalf of everyone, I would just like to thank you for this wonderful session that we had with you. And I think taking care of a diet is really a good way of, an alternate way of taking care of the glucose and making it, remain in the normal boundaries. In fact, abnormal rise of its domain and blocking the diabetes as such, will make us more sustainable to carry on a normal and healthy life. So thank you so much, Shilpa ji. Once again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us in today. And I hope this session was extremely helpful to all of you. I know a lot of you do have diabetes. I'm aware of it. So I know some inputs keep coming, but itne specialized way mein jab aapko tips milte hain, I hope this is going to help you become better in that and to maintain your diet in a much better way so that you get healthier and healthier. So Shilpa ji has already shared her email ID. So anybody who wants to reach out to her can do so. So once again, thank you so much, everyone. And now we will see you all tomorrow evening at 7:25 p.m. sharp for our Elder Hour show. And of course, our normal Mo TV things continue at 8 o'clock and 12 o'clock. So please do join in. And Shilpa ji, once again, a big thank you to you
Thank you
for being here with us.